Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back learners to this course on architectural thesis. Today we'll cover about the presentation on how you will summarize the overall findings from different analysis techniques that is taught previously in different presentation to draw some ideas for the thesis. So, my name is Dr. Vishal Chettry and I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Architecture, Planning and Design at IIT Varanasi. So, the content of this presentation, we will start with the recap, then we will look into the synthesis, why is it required and what is the purpose of synthesizing all the information, then the sources of different findings for synthesis, then the importance of architectural thesis overall. We will try to give you again a glimpse of why this is required in thesis, methods of interpretation, the SWOT analysis that is used for synthesizing the findings, then mind maps and concept mapping, then overlays that is used for drawing ideas. Then how do we move from data to the concept stage, translating research into design objectives, spatial requirements and diagramming techniques. Some examples from case study and site analysis details how that defines or provides you a decision on actually design decision, tools for synthesis that is used and some common challenges, and then we will wrap up with the conclusion that or overall takeaways from this presentation. So, to give you a recap of what was covered in the previous presentation, we tried to understand about site analysis techniques such as physical, environmental and socio-cultural aspects. So, the comprehensive site analysis covers all these three dimensions about the site, and all these informations are very much essential to make our design a very context based project. So, physical analysis includes location, accessibility, topography, geology, soil conditions, hydrology, climate and infrastructure consideration, whereas environmental factors include details about vegetation that is there on the site, the different types of flora and fauna within the site, the wildlife, microclimate, pollution levels, hazards and biodiversity within the site, so that we ensure that our project or the building respects the ecological sensitivity of that site. Socio-cultural dimensions are essential. Then all these inferences are used for integrating site analysis into thesis design, so that these factors are effectively incorporated into making a architectural design solution a more context driven approach, and that is what brings uniqueness to your project. So, to give you a definition of synthesis, it is a process of actually combining different data into the design decision process, such as surveys, interviews, site analysis and case studies are the different process that is adopted from where we get data, and the same data is used to synthesize in the form of actionable insights for the thesis. So, the role in architectural thesis of synthesis is to bridge the gap between research and design. So, the all inferences that we gather from research, we should be able to make it into a designable action. So, for that, what are those how should be the synthesis process? That is what will be covered in this presentation. Also, it ensures contextual relevance. A design response to the real world conditions, supports decision making process, inspires creativity and validates the design choices for the project. So the purpose of synthesizing data is that it ensures the design process is holistic in nature. We are in a position to gather information from different sources and different analysis techniques. So it will make our design decision more responsive and context driven. It prevents some biases if there is anything related to the project. For example, for any project that you consider, whether it may be for architectural design or maybe for thesis, there will be some inherent biases that will be there for the project, because sometimes when we think of any project, there will be some ideas that automatically comes to our mind, and that is what may create biasness to the project, because as already explained to you before, based on the site analysis and the case study inferences that you could gather from your study, these decisions in fact should guide you towards the design process, not the initial idea or thought process that you had in your mind about the project. So that biasness gets removed if you do your site analysis and case studies or literature review in detail. So link analysis to the ideation, that is why synthesizing data is essential, and then it strengthens the design justification in the later stages. So the sources of findings includes surveys and interviews that already I have explained. What are the different processes that has to be adopted for surveys and interview. Case study, how it is to be done, is already explained, and the findings from these are essential. Likewise for site analysis, it was covered in the previous presentation. So inferences from these different sources are required so that you make your site analysis, so you make your concept or idea for the project which is backed up by all these different studies. So this is what makes your thesis a very systematic process that you can adopt to come up with some design solutions at the end. So the importance of architectural thesis in this case is it benefits of synthesizing the data. It justifies the design choices, creates a strong foundation for the thesis, and enhances the originality. So when you synthesize the data, so you could be able to justify the design choices, that whatever decision that you take, it is relevant. In case of your architectural thesis projects, it creates a strong base based on which you can explain your understanding about the project and brings up some originality. That means when you do all these analysis, obviously you will be in a position to come up with strong ideas for the project, and those ideas are the innovative design solutions and original ideas, because it is backed up through the context of that particular project or the site. So the methods of interpretation, the first is overview. So to give you an overview of the interpretation methods, so once key takeaways are identified from different analyses, the next step is to organize and visualize them to inform the design thinking process. So several powerful methods include sort analysis, mind maps, concept mapping, and overlays techniques. So we will cover all these in detail in the coming slides. SWOT analysis is a very common process where we identify both the internal and external factors, such as internal includes strength and weakness, and the external factors includes the opportunities of the projects and the threats about the project. So most of the time opportunities and threats are related to the surroundings of the project. So that is why it is called the external factors. It helps to populate the quadrants with findings and justify the design by maximizing strength and opportunities while addressing weakness and threats of the particular site or the particular project. So the second one was mind map. So what is actually a mind map? It is a visual brainstorming tool that starts with the central theme and expands outward with related ideas. It encourages non-linear thinking and highlights connection among the factors. So it places your core project focus at the center. So whatever is the topic, along with that you try to branch out different ideas about the project. So how can all these factors help you achieve or bring out some originality into the design? So this is how mind maps helps you develop ideas for the project based on the analysis. The next is concept mapping. It is a structured diagramming that uses nodes and arrows to show the relationship between the different aspects of the project. It goes beyond listing factors, demonstrates how and why concepts connect in the case of a project. It starts with site data, then links finding with labeled arrows showing the relationship, that is cause and effect and dependency among the two factors, and connections with design needs. So at the end you will be able to come up with some strategy. So if there is a noisy street, that is a challenge to your project, so what design solution will be required for this? If there is a sunlight access, that leads to a challenge in your project. So there is these are the two directions from where there are chances that high that amount of sunlight may enter into your project. So you require you require a space wherein if it is located in your cold and cloudy region, you will use it as an advantage, you will tap that advantage. If it is located in some hot and dry climatic region or warm and humid climatic region, you will try to limit the access of sunlight into the space. So likewise, the design strategies are developed from this concept mapping stage. Then next is overlaying, that means layering the site data. So as within the site you will try to come up with different analysis for the site. For example, the prevalent sunlight direction, the prevalent wind direction, the circulation pattern in and around the site. So you overlay all these different layers, and then you will try to see the optimum spaces where according to the design or according to the requirement of that project, you place different blocks of your of the project as per the layers or as per the best site or best place or zone that you define from your overlay analysis. So create individual diagrams for site aspects such as sun path, wind flow, pedestrian, noise levels, vegetation, utilities. Overlay these diagrams to pinpoint opportunities. So that is how you will be able to identify the site, the locations or the areas within the site as per the needs. So based on the different requirements, how can these requirements be placed in your site, you will be able to decide after you do the overlay analysis. Then now let us look into how we can move from the data that we have generated from different analysis techniques to the concept stage. This stage is where the research findings evolve into the design intent. So you interpret data, you identify patterns, conflict and opportunities, you translate insights into early conceptual sketches. So the purpose here is to bridge the analysis and connectivity, ensuring that the design ideas are grounded in evidence. So you come up with all these different analyses like mind maps or the concept sketches, and all these conceptual sketches you draw related to the project, and then try to conclude that how these informations can help you evolve the concept or idea for the project. So you come up with abstract diagrams, special strategies or forms that can help you overcome the challenges and include the strength and opportunities of the site or of the project type that you have selected through your design ideas. Then you translate the research that you do into the design objective. So the purpose here is to ensure that the design is directly shaped by the real evidence that you get from the site. So the steps generally we take in this case is we extract the key needs from synthesis, we formulate the clear objectives, make them measurable and testable during the design. The outcome here is a concise set of guiding principles to anchor the design idea. So that is what is possible in this case. Then the spatial requirement, that is the area programming for the site, it is done based on the user and site needs into the planning of the spaces. So based on the case studies that you have done, you will be able to define the area requirement for your project. So how that process is actually done, so you will get some you'll find some ways, you'll be in a position to come up with some area programming, tentative area programming, after you compare your case studies and the details about the project from your literature review. So how much should be the minimum space, how much should be the maximum corridor width, and all these informations about the project can be gathered from your literature review as well as from your case study details. So these will help you develop your special requirements for the projects, for the selected project. Then the diagramming techniques includes the graphic tools for expressing the early design intent. It quickly communicates flows, relationships, and the massing ideas for your project. The common techniques that we use is flow lines for circulation. We use these line diagrams to show how the movement or circulation pattern will happen in the site. So that will sometimes provides a shape to the building or to the blocks that we can think of for the project. So this gradually builds up the form of the building. It also allows you to do massing for the block, overlays for layered site responses based on the findings. So this is what is are the techniques based on which you can evolve design ideas for your project. So in next case we will see some case study integration. So how is the case study integrated in your particular project? So in this case we try to synthesize the precedent research that can directly guide the design move. So what are the different findings from the case study? So how are those information from the case study integrated into the design ideas? So for example, if you have observed a very unique feature and through your surveys and interviews with the users, you find out that that these features are very essential or are very useful for the users, then you should retain this in your design, in your design process for the particular project. So likewise there will be a few observations based on your personal visit to the similar project. For example, if you have visited any convention center or any hospital for your case study, so whatever features that you like about the project, for example, it may be the material, it may be the way the entrance to the site is designed, or it may be how the entrance foyer is designed for the project, where for example if it is a hospital, so there is less of chaos near the entrance, so near the emergency block especially. So how does that design, how the design is being done to minimize the chaos in the emergency section of the hospital. So if you like those features, try to note those features and keep in your mind about these ideas when you start the design stage. So likewise for any project such as a library that is mentioned here, if you saw the way the skylight is designed and how the daylight is actually used in that project at the same time by reducing the glare of that glare from the sunlight within the building. So if you like that feature, so try to note that feature and draw a rough sketch what is that feature, how does that feature helps in reducing the glare, and if there is any way you can integrate that in your project. So think of these ideas and then draw some sketches and note it in your sketchbook, and then use it for when you start with the design process. So use inspiration from the light shaft that you saw, which is a very interesting way to integrate daylight into the building. If there is any fenestration design that is very suitable, or how has the material choice helped in making that project a very context driven building within the that site. So if you could just note down those features, that would be very helpful for you to start with the design stage. So the goal is here to learn lessons from case studies into diagrams that shape your own design. So these informations are very are very essential because these informations guides you in the design process. Then the next is how we integrate the site analysis integration. So site data must inform the design drivers. So whatever design decision that you take for the site, partly it will be based on the case study inferences, partly from the literature review, and also it will be based on the site analysis. So based on the existing sun path or the windows diagram, the analysis from the windows diagram actually helps you design the orientation of the building, the shading devices, and the facade articulation. For example, there is no other way by which you can place your entrance in such a way that it is the southern or western direction, but your main road is in that direction only, either it is south or west. So in that case, your entrance has to be designed in such a way that you are able to tap that feature into the design process. So if there is no other direction possible, so then you can think of how you can design your building in such a way that you don't allow, or you place your activities within the block in such a way that habitable spaces or the spaces which will be utilized by the maximum number of hours within the usable time can be used for the project, or can be used in such a way that these microclimatic factors doesn't hinder or impact the comfort within the space. So these informations are essential for the project, and it will guide you in the design decision process. So the cultural overlays includes pedestrian circulation or social gathering points that becomes nodes in the design. So these important information about the different places or about the different features of the project or the site has to be understood, so that you can tap these features in the project. So the key takeaway in this is the site findings helps you in the direct input for the building form and for the performance of the building. So because the sunlight, the sun path diagram, windows diagram, all these has to be understood. So what is the prevailing wind direction during summers, and what is the prevailing wind direction during winters? So you have to understand these information, and by designing your fenestration and openings in such a way that you could limit the hot air from the summers during in the block by placing some design features. It can be the landscape, it can be any water body that can be used, so that the hot air that enters to the building can actually cool before it enters the building, or before it enters the built space of your project. So these informations are essential in that way. Then the different tools that are used for synthesis includes digital tools like GIS, Rhino or Grasshopper or Revit. So these are used for different analysis, like GIS is used for layered environmental or cultural maps, Rhino or Grasshopper software is used for parametric modeling, Revit is used for programmatic visualization of the particular tool that is used for analysis, for synthesis of the data. So the manual tools are also possible in this case, that are hand sketches that you draw based on your site observations or based on the case study visit, tracing paper overlays, that is you draw all the layers in different tracing sheets. For it may be a gateway sheet, or maybe a butter sheet, or maybe a rice paper, where you draw different layers and then try to overlay on top of it and identify the optimum location within the site for certain activity or certain blocks of your project. The hybrid approach will include best results come when the digital precision meets the manual creativity. So you can mix up both the approaches and use it for the best result for the analysis, or for converting data into the ideas for your project. The common challenges that we observed generally among the students, what they tell us for the project, or when you do all this analysis and then you find that there are so many inferences that has come up from different studies or different studies. So how to integrate those information? So there is a data overload that happens. So too much site or user info can paralyze the design decision making. So there is a requirement of filtering that has to be done. So some information about the site may be good for your understanding of the project requirement, so that you are more sensitive towards the design that you do, and it may not directly impact the design as a whole, but a few informations like climate or like the cultural factors, it may actually affect the way that building is going to be used, or the way that built space that you have designed will be used by the user. So these informations are necessary. Some are just to make you sensitize, and so that you don't repeat the mistakes that you found in your case studies or the inferences from your site visits or from the user study. So these information has to be filtered and actionable strategies has to be derived. So also there are chances that there will be some conflicting findings. So from literature review you may get some kind of input, but at the site, from the site analysis, that the same inferences may not be possible due to the existing site condition. So there is a conflict between the site study and that of the your literature review. So how to balance these things? So that has to be discussed. So these are the areas where you need a proper discussion with your thesis supervisor or your mentor or your thesis overall coordinator, so that a proper design decision is taken and you minimize the biasness or you minimize the errors that can be that can be easily done in case of the project. So biasness in interpretation is to be avoided when you explain your reasoning or when you explain your analysis to your supervisor, or at that very instance you will get some feedback on your analysis, whether it is clearly or there is some objectivity to it, or whether there is any biasness to the design, to the conclusion that you have drawn, or by mistake you interpreted it in a other way which should not be done. So you will get feedback on these inputs, and so this is why you have to be objective about the decision that you take. So the key tip is here to circle back to research and evidence. So evidence as well as a discussion with your thesis supervisor. So to summarize what we have understood from the synthesizing the overall analysis from the studies, different studies, and then drawing and then coming up with some analysis for some design decision process, what we interpreted is synthesis is a key where the research shapes the tangible design moves. Use structured tools to organize your insights, like you use SWOT analysis, mind maps and overlays for detailed study of your of the site as well as of the project, and use it for interpretation. Translate findings into clear design objectives, spatial needs and early concept sketches. Synthesis ensures that your design is again repeating the same information, and it is crucial because it helps you in making your design a very contextually driven project. It doesn't bring any biasness, it minimizes the biasness and brings some uniqueness or a very interesting feature in your design which will be appreciated by anyone who would look into your project. So that is what brings uniqueness to any project. If you respect the inferences from your case study or respect the existing site analysis, draw some strong design conclusion. So all these informations are somewhere very useful to come up with strong points for your design. So small activities are planned at the end of this lecture that you can do to perform a detailed analysis. So it is being shown here. You can do it so that you are able to understand the importance of or you will be able to understand the application of what was discussed in this presentation. So these are some resources or books and some articles that you can refer to understand more on this topic that is covered. So in our next presentation, I'll cover details about concept, site plan and floor plans. Overall, how are these aspects of the thesis deliverables should be prepared. So I'll try to give you an understanding of design concept, importance of design concept, what are different types of concepts, translating research into concept ideas, crafting strong narratives from concept, and then some case study examples to demonstrate how concept application has been observed in the past thesis project. So how has been concept developed in the past project. So I'll give you some examples from the works of my students or from what I have seen in different thesis projects. So with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and thank you for your patience listening.